does the darkness of prehistoric times really hide? How did the titans that once dominated our planet come to be? The dawn of the dinosaurs remains one of the greatest mysteries in Earth's history. In the depths of the Triassic Period, more than 250 million years ago, an extraordinary event took place, forever altering the course of evolution. But what really happened? What forces shaped these prehistoric giants? And why did they emerge at this precise moment in history? Dear traveler, welcome. Today we're diving right into the heart of the dinosaur age to discover how these animals, as majestic as they were terrible, emerged, evolved, and dominated the planet for over 160 million years. But before you set off on your next adventure, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing. Thanks, and have a great trip! To understand how dinosaurs first appeared, it's essential to go back even further, to the Precambrian Era. This period, spanning some 4 billion years, represents the largest part of Earth's history and lays the foundations for life as we know it. Imagine an Earth very different from the one we know today. During the Precambrian Era, our planet underwent major geological transformations. Today's continents did not yet exist. Instead, primitive land masses appeared and disappeared in the wake of tectonic movements. Oceans cover most of the planet's surface, and the climate is extremely variable, alternating between icy periods and phases of intense warming. Yet against this tumultuous backdrop, life is beginning to emerge. The very first forms of life emerged 3.5 billion years ago in the form of single-celled microorganisms. These microscopic beings, such as cyanobacteria, play a crucial role in the formation of the Earth's atmosphere. Through photosynthesis, they release oxygen, slowly transforming an atmosphere overloaded with carbon dioxide into the oxygen-rich atmosphere essential for complex life. Then, towards the end of the Precambrian Era, some 600 million years ago, the first multicellular life forms appeared. Faunal fossils from this period, notably those of the Ediacaran, attest to creatures as varied and strange as each other in the form of soft-bodied organisms living in shallow oceans. This diversification, which marks a decisive turning point in evolution, lays the foundations for the explosion of complex life to come. After billions of years of slow, gradual evolution, the Earth entered a new era, the Paleozoic. This period, which began around 541 million years ago, was marked by major ecological transformations and an explosion in the diversity of life. Let's explore this pivotal period, which paved the way for the appearance of the first vertebrates, and later the dinosaurs. The transition to the Paleozoic began with a spectacular event known as the Cambrian Explosion. In the space of just a few million years, an incredible diversity of complex life forms appeared in the oceans. Fossils from this period record an impressive variety of organisms, including the first hard-shelled animals and the first arthropods. For the first time on our planet, organisms with skeletal architectures appeared, offering structural support but also and above all protection. This feature enabled these creatures to grow and diversify. Multicellular animals became increasingly complex. In particular, they developed the first nervous systems and are given appendages for locomotion, as well as primitive eyes. The Paleozoic era is punctuated by several successive geological periods, each bringing its own biological and ecological innovations. The Ordovician and Silurian periods saw the colonization of land masses. The first land plants developed, transforming landscapes and creating new habitats. Mosses and lichens proliferated in particularly humid coastal areas. The first vertebrates, jawless fish, appeared in the oceans. They heralded the beginning of an evolutionary lineage that would later lead to amphibians and reptiles. The Devonian, the next period, can be considered the age of fishes, as they diversified as never before. Above all, the first jawed fish began to populate the oceans, these species including the ancestors of sharks and bony fish. Then, as the Devonian period drew to a close, some of these fish began to evolve to live outside the water, giving rise to the first tetrapods, the ancestors of amphibians. We are now in the middle of the Carboniferous Period. This period saw the appearance of vast equatorial forests. Plants with giant spores, such as lycopods and horsetails, dominated the landscape, which was completely reshaped. In this lush world of wet, swampy forests, the first reptiles made their debut. Among the earliest was Hylonomus. Resembling a modern lizard, it measures around 20 centimeters or 8 inches long. Petrolicosaurus, with a length of 40 centimeters or 16 inches, and a slender body supported by sturdy limbs, was one of the first diapsids. This group of reptiles, characterized by 2 openings in the skull behind the eyes, presents an important particularity in the evolution of reptiles. But more than anything else, the reptiles of the Carboniferous and Permian periods mark a decisive step in the evolution of terrestrial vertebrates. By laying eggs protected by a shell, they enabled wider colonization of the land, moving further and further from the shore. Alongside them, in this distant world where dinosaurs had yet to walk the earth, equally fascinating creatures dominated the landscape: giant insects. In this universe, where thick vegetation releases abundant oxygen into the atmosphere, insects grow to gigantic sizes. Some specimens, such as the dragonfly Megalosaurus permiana, reach the size of a modern-day condor, with a wingspan of almost a meter. On the ground, sheltered by a carpet of immense dense ferns, terrifying millipedes creep along, like the Arthropleura, which measures no less than 1.50 meters or 5 feet in length. Arthropods are not to be outdone. Between disproportionately large mayflies, titanic scorpions, and the most aggressive spiders, this environment now seems worthy of the greatest horror films. But the Paleozoic era is coming to an end. A mass extinction event, probably the biggest of all time, overwhelmed the Earth. In a cataclysmic event, no less than 90% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial species were wiped out, paving the way for the next era, the Mesozoic. This was the same era that saw the appearance of dinosaurs, which eventually came to dominate the entire Earth. During this major transition period, which revealed a planet in the throes of transformation, life experimented with new forms and colonized new environments. This phase of ecological and evolutionary upheaval laid the foundations for the emergence of winged vertebrates, and eventually, dinosaurs. It's time for the new era. Let's dive into the Triassic, the first period of the Mesozoic era. Let's discover how the first dinosaurs emerged and adapted to this ever-changing world. To understand their advent, it's essential to look at the geological context of this new period. The Triassic, which stretches from 252 to 201 million years ago, marks the beginning of the Mesozoic era, which some people like to call the Age of the Dinosaurs. But before these fascinating creatures dominated the planet, the Triassic world underwent profound geological and climatic transformations. Imagine an Earth where all the continents are united in a single, immense landmass called Pangea. During the Triassic period, this supercontinent, which towers above the planet, stretches from pole to pole. The result of the collision of pre-existing continents, this single continent formed at the end of the Paleozoic era and is surrounded by a global ocean called Panthalassa. The topography of this immense continent is varied. Beyond its extensive coasts, major mountain ranges are visible, while in the center, far from oceanic influences, we find vast arid and desert zones, far less welcoming. This new configuration of the planet is not without consequences. The merging of the continents considerably reduces the diversity of coastal habitats, thus limiting the ecological niches available for existing flora and fauna. Due to the absence of significant geographical barriers, Triassic species are relatively cosmopolitan, occupying a large portion of this supercontinent. The weather of this period is as extreme as its geography, with varied climatic conditions strongly influencing the evolution of life on Earth. The Triassic climate was hot and dry, particularly in the interior of Pangea. The great distances separating inland areas from the ocean gave rise to arid continental climates. Vast stretches of land, similar to those we know today in regions such as the Sahara, shape a particularly parched landscape. The center of Pangea is thus dotted with deserts and savannas, where plants adapted to such conditions, such as conifers and ferns, survive despite the drought. Faced with these arid environments, animals have no choice but to adapt in order to survive. Reptiles in particular thrive on their ability to conserve water and tolerate extreme temperatures. Coastal regions, on the other hand, enjoy a more temperate and humid climate, favoring richer biodiversity and more complex ecosystems. These wetter areas, located near the coast and mountains, are home to lush forests and swamps. True refuges, these environments are home to a growing diversity of animal and plant life. With these climatic and environmental differences creating a mosaic of habitats, ecological diversity is increasingly evident. The first dinosaurs, though still small and agile, made their place among this diverse fauna of reptiles and amphibians. What remains to be understood is how dinosaurs, these emblematic creatures of our planet's history, emerged and differentiated themselves from the other reptiles of their time. Now get ready. You're about to meet the pioneers of the dinosaur kingdom. Appearing around 243 million years ago, the first dinosaurs quickly developed distinctive traits that separated them from other reptiles, marking a significant turning point in the history of life on Earth. Relatively small compared to their later, far more famous descendants from the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, here are a few emblematic examples of the builders of a new world. Meet Nyasasaurus parringtoni. Its name, meaning Lake Nyasa lizard, derives from its home in present-day Tanzania. Considered the oldest known dinosaur, or at least a close relative, it belongs to the dinosauriform clade. Based on fossils of two specimens, one with a right humerus and 6 vertebrae, the other with 3 elongated cervical vertebrae, its length is estimated at almost 3 meters, or 10 feet. Anatomically, it possesses features typical of dinosaurs, namely elongated cervical vertebrae and a bone structure suggesting rapid growth. About the size of a calf, weighing between 20 and 60 kilograms, or 45 to 130 pounds, it is distinguished by the exceptional length of its tail, which reaches 1.50 meters, or 5 feet. Probably omnivorous, its diet consists of a variety of foods available in its environment. With such a long, supple body construction, one imagines a certain agility in its movements. What's more, its size and speed enable it to escape the predators it encounters on the semi-arid plains of southern Africa, still attached to the supercontinent of Pangea. In a remote part of this single continent, a predator is on the prowl. Behold, the Herrerasaurus. Living in present-day Argentina some 231 million years ago, this bipedal dinosaur moves skillfully through dense vegetation, thanks to the range of motion of its hips. Sometimes hunting in the middle of a forest, sometimes in a river valley, it is easily identifiable, distinguished by its slender silhouette, long tail and singularly small head. Measuring almost 5 meters or 17 feet in length and over 1 meter or 3 feet high at the hip, he is one of the greatest predators of his time. His favorite foods? Small reptiles and other modest-sized animals, which he has no trouble catching thanks to his powerful jaws and curved teeth. The latter, equipped with a flexible joint, enable it to tear off the flesh of its prey with a single backward movement. With its sturdy hind limbs, sharp claws, and hunting teeth, Herrerasaurus is an efficient predator, particularly feared by most of its fellow creatures. Another Upper Triassic giant reigns supreme here. This is Saurosuchus, another dinosaur belonging to the Rossusian group, probably the largest in its category. At around 7 meters or 23 feet in length, this lizard crocodile was one of the greatest predators of its time. Supported by a massive neck, its skull, broad at the back and narrowing at eye level, is armed with large, curved, serrated teeth, perfect for tearing apart its prey. Osteoderms, small, prominent bony structures, run in 2 rows down its back, testifying to its robustness and super-predator status. Although Herrerasaurus was a formidable hunter, it had to make way for Saurosuchus, the titan of its day. These two predators coexist in a delicate balance, with Saurosuchus potentially keeping Herrerasaurus populations under control. They perfectly illustrate the eternal struggle for survival and domination. While Herrerasaurus and Saurasuchus dominate the landscape, a small silhouette stands out. Behold, the Airaptor. The name of this small dinosaur, which also walked the Earth 230 million years ago, translates as Dawn Thief. Modest in stature and light in build, measuring barely 1 meter or 3 feet in length, and weighing around 10 kilograms or 20 pounds, it's a model of speed and agility. Its short forelegs end in 5 toes, 3 of which are equipped with large claws. As for its powerful digitigrade hind legs, they enable it to move quickly, but also to pounce with ease. As its varied teeth suggest, the Euraptor is probably an omnivore. It feeds on insects, which are abundant in forests and plains, as well as small vertebrates, soft leaves and fruit gleaned here and there. Its varied diet and speed give it a significant advantage in the Triassic ecosystem, where competition is fierce. Although small, it shares its habitat with the mighty Herrerasaurus and the colossal Saurasuchus, illustrating the diversity and adaptability of early dinosaurs. These 3 species, though different, bear witness to the dawn of the dinosaurs. Their joint existence underlines the fascinating evolution of these creatures that have shaped the history of our planet. But let's summarize the characteristics of these new emerging species. Let's take a closer look at how dinosaurs differ from other existing reptiles. Anatomically, they have an erect posture. Unlike reptiles such as crocodilians, whose legs extend out to the sides, dinosaurs' legs are positioned directly under the body. This adaptation enabled faster, more efficient locomotion. They also developed a triradiate hip structure. This enabled them to support a heavier body and adopt a much more stable bipedal or quadrupedal posture. Finally, dinosaur bones are often hollow, or at least partially so, especially in Saurischian theropods like Herrerasaurus. This light skeleton reduced their weight, making them faster and more agile. Let's take a look at their new physiological characteristics. As we saw earlier, the first dinosaurs enjoyed rapid growth, faster than that of non-dinosaur reptiles. And, unlike non-dinosaur reptiles, they had an active metabolism. Able to regulate their metabolisms according to outside temperatures, they had greater stamina than ectothermic reptiles and were much more dynamic. Compared to many other species, these are serious advantages, aren't they? But the evolution of these species is not confined to physical or metabolic characteristics. Their behavior is evolving too. Evidence suggests that some dinosaurs cared for their offspring, which sets them apart from many other reptiles. Fossilized nests not only show clusters of eggs, but sometimes provide evidence of young dinosaurs having been fed after hatching. In addition, some of the earliest dinosaurs show signs of social behavior, such as herding. This group life offers great advantages in terms of protection from predators, but also efficiency in the search for food. Here, then, are the secrets of their evolutionary success. On the one hand, their anatomical and behavioral innovations distinguish them from other reptiles, but on the other, they lay the foundations for their future dominance. However, all was not yet won, for while the first dinosaurs faced stiff competition among themselves, dangers were omnipresent. In the harsh world of the Triassic, Where various creatures compete for resources, the newly appeared dinosaurs do not yet reign supreme. They face fierce competition from other fearsome predators. Among them are the pseudosuchians, dominant crocodile-like reptiles of the archosaur family. Reputed to be the kings of the Triassic, they are considered the main land predators of this period. Armed with powerful jaws and body armor, they pose a constant threat to other animals. Rossusians, another group of archosaurians that can be described as huge land predators, also wreak havoc. The Postosuchus, one of them, is a massive creature, often larger than the first dinosaurs. Equipped with saw teeth and powerful legs, this mastodon is a formidable hunter and competitor for resources. Another group of tetrapods was also active at this time. These significant competitors belong to the synapsids. Among them are creatures that look like large herbivores with tusks, belonging to the diconodonts, or the cynodonts, small agile predators known to be ancestors of mammals. These include Lystrosaurus, a stocky burrowing animal that dominates herbivore niches, and Thrinaxodon, small and agile, but above all opportunistic, filling a variety of ecological niches. Wherever there was abundant food, there were plenty of predators. In rivers and lakes bordered by swampy areas teeming with life, giant amphibians like Mastodontosaurus lay in wait. This enormous frog, the size of a large saltwater crocodile, measuring 6 meters or 20 feet in length and weighing up to 2 tons, can swallow a small dinosaur in one gulp as it quenches its thirst. All these predators, each dangerous in their own way, forced the first dinosaurs to adapt quickly, as their survival was at stake. Their agility, speed, and intelligence proved essential in this incessant struggle for food, and therefore life. Despite these challenges, these precursors hang on, each with their own adaptations and survival strategies. Let's find out how the ingenuity and resilience of these creatures led to their extraordinary rise and diversification during the Jurassic period. To achieve this, it is essential to explore the geological and environmental changes of this period. The Jurassic period, which stretches from 201 to 145 million years ago, is marked by the fragmentation of Pangea and a generally temperate and humid climate. These two factors were to prove decisive for the future evolution and dispersal of dinosaurs. Pangea, the supercontinent that dominated the Earth in the Triassic, began to fragment at the start of the Jurassic. The division of Pangea led to the formation of the Atlantic Ocean to the north and the Indian Ocean to the south. These new oceans created natural barriers, isolating certain dinosaur populations and promoting their differentiation. Newly formed continents such as North America, Africa, Eurasia, and South America became increasingly isolated, stimulating rapid species diversification. This geographical isolation also resulted in evolutionary divergences. Unique dinosaur species emerged on each of these continents. A variety of dinosaur forms emerged, adapted to the specific environments of each of these regions. This is known as allopatric speciation. The fragmentation of Pangea inevitably led to regional climatic variations. Newly drawn coasts and inland seas influenced local weather patterns, creating diverse microclimates. In addition, the planet's overall climate during the Jurassic period was fairly temperate and humid. Temperatures were mild and relatively stable, with no major climatic extremes, favoring the growth of dense, lush forests. These are dominated by conifers such as araucarias and podocarps, as well as palm-like cycads and densely foliaged ginkgos. These plants provide an abundance of food, especially for herbivorous dinosaurs. Ferns and horsetails also thrive, particularly in marshy areas and near streams. These carpets of greenery provide a rich and varied diet. This dense, diverse vegetation enabled herbivorous dinosaurs to grow to gigantic sizes. Species such as sauropods with their long necks can reach the high leaves of conifers. What's more, the diversity of this lush vegetation supports complex ecosystems where herbivorous and carnivorous dinosaurs interact. Forests and plains thus provide varied habitats, allowing species to cohabit and diversify as rarely before. All in all, the timing was right. The emergence of the first dinosaurs during the Triassic period, combined with a favorable geological and climatic context, created the ideal conditions for the rapid diversification and expansion of dinosaurs across the globe. With these major changes creating fertile ground, specific adaptations enabled dinosaurs to thrive in their new habitats. Get ready to discover the impressive diversity of Jurassic dinosaurs. This era saw the emergence of numerous groups of dinosaurs, each developing specific traits and ecological adaptations that enable them to dominate a variety of habitats. Let's take a close look at this diversification and the evolutionary innovations that enabled dinosaurs to thrive like never before during this long period. Let's start with the sauropod group, those long-necked giants, some of whose members are the largest land animals the Earth has ever known. This group includes titans such as Brachiosaurus and the famous Diplodocus, dinosaurs you probably already recognize. There, towering above the treetops of a dense forest, the vertiginous neck of a Brachiosaurus stands like a living crane. It quietly grazes on the highest leaves, those that no other herbivore can reach, and does so without too much exertion. Brachiosaurus needs a lot of energy to move, weighing between 32 and 50 tons. Its height, almost half of which is covered by its neck, is around 12 meters or 40 feet, comparable to a 4-story building. With a length of up to 25 meters or 80 feet, Brachiosaurus is longer than it is tall. The front legs of this Jurassic colossus are longer than the hind legs, giving it an inclined stance, ideal for aiming its head towards the highest peaks. Its nostrils, located at the top of its small head like periscopes, allow it to breathe easily while feeding. This vegetarian titan prefers to live in small groups. This enables it to keep a close eye on any predators that might prey on its youngest members, while feasting on its arboreal buffet. Not far away, on a magnificent open plain, another giant roams the land in search of food. This is the Diplodocus, with its elongated body ending in a tail resembling a menacing whip. The Diplodocus is a sight to behold in its own right, as long as a 30-meter basketball court. Yet it's not as massive as Brachiosaurus and generally weighs between 10 and 16 tons, half as much for the same size. Its 4 sturdy legs give it a horizontal posture, with the front limbs slightly shorter than the others. Its long neck enables it to scan vast areas to feed, without needing to move constantly. As for its extremely long tail, it probably uses it as a pendulum to facilitate its movements, but it may also be used as a defensive weapon. In fact, the tail is one of the distinctive features of Diplodocus. It comprises 80 caudal vertebrae, almost twice as many as other sauropod dinosaurs in the same family. Unlike its cousin, it prefers low plants and ferns, which it rakes tirelessly with its comb-like teeth. Both specimens are evolutionary marvels, each having adapted to its environment in a unique way. Their anatomical adaptations, including hollow vertebrae and light bones to support their immense size, long necks supported by powerful muscles, and even the fearsome tail of Diplodocus, enabled them in part to become the titans of their time. Let's continue our exploration by turning to the theropods, the most fascinating and emblematic dinosaurs of the Jurassic period. One of them stands out for its power and ferocity. Meet the fearsome Allosaurus, whose name means different lizard. When fully grown, it can measure up to 12 meters or 40 feet in length. Weighing up to 2.5 tons, it's a veritable colossus. Its skull measures almost 90 centimeters or 35 inches long, and is equipped with numerous sharp curved teeth, ideal for slicing through the leather of its prey. Each tooth is about 10 centimeters or 4 inches long, capable of inflicting deep wounds. While its forelegs are relatively short, they are extremely powerful, with 3 toes and sharp claws. At 15 centimeters or 6 inches long, they are formidable weapons for capturing and subduing unfortunate prey. The tail, rigid and heavy, acts as a pendulum, providing balance and agility to this colossus during its hunting parties. As you can imagine, the Allosaurus, thanks to its anatomical adaptations making it particularly efficient, is a predator at the top of the food chain. What's more, it hunts collectively, enabling it to massacre prey much larger than itself, such as the immense sauropods. Add to this a well-developed sense of smell, crucial for detecting prey at a distance, and eyes positioned on the sides of its skull, giving it a wide field of vision, essential for spotting any movement around it. Even so, this Jurassic monster has left traces of parental care, demonstrating that its adaptations go far beyond its impressive physique. Acting in groups to carry out attacks, Allosaurus is also capable of guarding eggs and protecting young from predators as well as the elements. Get ready to meet one of the most intriguing hunters of this era. Meet the Ceratosaurus, or horned lizard. Easily recognized by the intimidating horn on its snout and its striking features, if not as large as some of its contemporaries, it is perfectly suited to its role as a predator. Measuring up to 8 meters or 26 feet long, it weighs up to 2 tons. Its powerful jaws, filled with curved teeth and 10 centimeters or 4 inches long, are particularly frightening, as they are so well adapted to seizing and shredding flesh. Its long hind legs and rigid tail make it an agile and efficient predator, especially as its running speed can reach 30 kilometers per hour, or 20 miles per hour. Unlike group hunters like Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus is more of a solitary, opportunistic predator. It uses its medium size to pounce on its prey, which it holds back with its powerful forearms equipped with sharp clawed fingers before inflicting fatal bites. Hunting both on land and in the water and exploiting a variety of different ecological niches, it avoids competition and manages to coexist with other large predators living nearby. Alongside it, leading an equivalent existence is the Dilophosaurus, easily recognized by the double crest of bone it proudly sports. More elegant than Ceratosaurus, but no less dangerous, it measures 7 meters or 23 feet in length, and weighs just 500 kilograms or 1,100 pounds. Its lightness and top speed enable it to pursue swift prey, but also to evade larger predators. Above all, this carnivore employs a novel hunting strategy. Rather than relying on brute strength, it uses its speed and agility to play on the element of surprise. It may even display its crest for visual demonstration, either to intimidate or to attract potential partners. Roaming forest, plains, and riverbanks, Dilophosaurus knows how to adapt to different environments, and although solitary, cohabits with many other species. This makes it one of the most fascinating predators of the early Jurassic period. By the way, do you know the first scientifically described carnivorous dinosaur? It was Megalosaurus, a gigantic hunter that left its mark on the history of paleontology. One of the first great theropods, this large lizard is a veritable legend in the world of dinosaurs. Its imposing stature made it one of the most feared predators of its time. Indeed, Megalosaurus measured up to 10 meters or 33 feet in length and weighed up to 2 tons. No need to describe the power of its fearsome jaws lined with long, razor-sharp teeth. Megalosaurus uses its strength and running skills to dominate its environment. Its powerful hind limbs enable it to sprint and surprise its targets, which it pursues at speeds of up to 40 kilometers per hour or 25 miles per hour. Thanks to its highly developed intelligence and acute senses, it is able to stalk its prey before resorting to surprise. This solitary hunter is constantly on the lookout, both in the forest and along rivers, where it masters the art of camouflage. Endowed with a certain physical strength, he allows himself to attack large, even very large animals. In the captivating world of the Jurassic, every dinosaur, big or small, plays a crucial role in the ecosystem. That's why we're now turning our attention to Compsognathus. Although small in size, this carnivore stands out for its agility and speed. Its name, which means elegant jaws, might lead us to believe that this is a bland little dinosaur. But think again. Although the adult Compsognathus doesn't measure more than 1.5 meters or 5 feet in length and weighs around 3 kilograms or 6 pounds, it knows how to make the most of these characteristics. Aided by its small size, it sneaks into the smallest nooks and crannies, hunting prey that larger dinosaurs can't reach. In short, this miniaturized replica of the Jurassic's greatest predators has nothing to envy them. Equipped with identical attributes, it employs the same hunting techniques, playing on its agility and speed, which incidentally reaches 40 kilometers per hour, or 25 miles per hour. Based on surprise and speed, this small carnivore is able to hide very easily without risking detection, and feasts on all kinds of foods. As the day progresses, it feeds on small animals such as lizards, insects, and even small mammals, which it grasps firmly with its claws before consuming in all haste. Despite its modest stature, the Compsognathus is a formidable predator. Its influence on the Jurassic ecosystem underlines the fact that even the smallest dinosaurs play a decisive role. Let's continue our immersion into the main dinosaur groups of this period and discover the Ornithopods. This diverse branch of herbivorous dinosaurs includes the Hypsilophodon, whose name means high-top tooth. It is one of the best-known ornithopods, famous for its ability to move quickly due to its small size and light weight. As an adult, it measures around 2 meters or 7 feet in length and weighs up to 40 kilograms or 90 pounds. Its short but muscular forelegs, equipped with 5 fingers, enable it to manipulate vegetation at will. Its leaf-shaped teeth are ideal for efficiently shredding and crushing vegetation. Its preferred food consists mainly of low-growing plants such as ferns, cycadophytes, and primitive flowering plants, which it shares with its few congeners. Indeed, this small herbivore is a relatively social animal, preferring to live in small communities. This structure suits them perfectly, providing mutual protection against predators. It is found mainly in Europe, in regions covered by richly vegetated subtropical forests or on alluvial plains. Fast and agile, it finds its place in the ecosystem it inhabits without too much direct competition. In the same group, slightly larger and more robust, is the Camptosaurus. Its name, meaning curved lizard, is due to the curved bones of its thighs. Measuring up to 7 meters or 23 feet in length and weighing up to 900 kilograms or 600 pounds, its medium size and robust build enable it to resist certain predators while feeding to its advantage. Its specialized, spatula-shaped teeth are perfectly suited to a herbivorous diet, consisting of a wide variety of plants, even hard and fibrous ones. Another major advantage is its ability to alternate between quadrupedal walking for feeding and fast bipedal walking to move over long distances or escape a threat. This flexibility enables it to adapt to different environments and maximize its food resources. That's why these traces can be found in parts of North America and Europe, where alluvial plains, lush forests, and swamps abounded with food. As you will have noticed, these dinosaurs are adapted to a life on the move, with bodies designed for speed and agility. As a result, they are able to thrive in a world where danger dominates. Let's now turn our attention to the fourth group of dinosaurs symbolizing the Jurassic Period, the Theopfores, or shield-bearers. Well protected by bone plates and spines, without further ado, let's meet Stegosaurus and Scelidosaurus. These two creatures, as majestic as they are frightening, have distinctive features that make them unique. Easily identified by its dorsal plates and the 4 spikes on its tail, Stegosaurus measures almost 9 meters or 30 feet and weighs an estimated 4 to 5 tons. The bony plates along its back measure up to 60 centimeters or 23 inches high. Quite a deterrent, isn't it? And with its sword-like tail, it possesses a defensive weapon that could prove formidable. The Scelidosaurus is half its size, measuring 4 meters or 13 feet long and weighing 300 kilograms or 660 pounds. Its body armor is no less impressive. Its body, covered with bony plates and numerous small nodules, is a passive but effective defense. Living mainly in forests, alone or in small groups, they take advantage of dense vegetation to escape predators. Rather clumsy, they both move confidently and feed on low-growing plants, which they easily crush with their powerful jaws. These two specimens, with their incredible natural armor, demonstrate a unique survival strategy and are an excellent representation of the dinosaurs of this period. Let's take a look at the last group, the marginocephalans, crested and horned dinosaurs like the famous Triceratops. Although they have not yet seen the light of day, being known mainly during the Cretaceous, their first representatives nevertheless appeared in the Upper Jurassic. Among those that mark this period are the Yinlong Downsy and the Heterodontosaurus. Yinlong Downsy, whose name translates as Down's Hidden Dragon, was one of the first members of the Ceratopsian family of horned dinosaurs. This small herbivore, whose head is topped by a modest crest, measures just over a meter, for 15 kilograms or 33 pounds, and occupies territories corresponding to present-day China. Its beak, horny like a parrot's, and its scissor-like teeth are perfect for cutting the hard fibrous plants it loves. Its limbs, shorter at the front, suggest a partial bipedal posture. This configuration enables it to move quickly while still being able to handle its food. It's easy to imagine him moving in small groups and with haste through undergrowth and meadows in search of his favorite food, which is abundant and varied, sparing him a great deal of direct competition. In another territory in present-day South Africa, the Heterodontosaurus can be found in wooded areas, measuring no more than 1 meter. Although not a typical marginocephalan, it is nevertheless associated with this group due to its unique dental characteristics. Its jaws feature pointed teeth at the front, flat teeth at the back, and between these two rows, 2 pairs of large canines, reminiscent of mammalian dentition. Above all, only the upper jaw is toothed, the lower one resembling a hooked beak. Its diet is probably a mixed one, with the front teeth used for grasping and the back teeth for crushing. Its even more varied diet, comprising everything from leaves to seeds, is crucial to its survival in a constantly changing environment. In the vast expanses of the Jurassic, life teems in a complex symphony of interactions between dinosaurs and other forms of life. They share their world with a multitude of organisms, from plants to invertebrates and other vertebrates. Every interaction, every ecological relationship contributes to weaving the convoluted web of ecosystems of this rich period. As undisputed masters of the Earth, dinosaurs had a profound influence on their environment. Their movements, eating habits, and social interactions, both good and bad, sculpted the landscape and plant populations. Herbivores modify vegetation by grazing, while carnivores regulate prey populations, creating a delicate but efficient balance within terrestrial ecosystems. But Jurassic life was not confined to land. Marine environments also played a major role in the dynamics of life during this period. Both terrestrial and marine ecosystems are closely intertwined, each influencing the other in an incessant ballet of cooperation and competition. For in the mystical depths of the Jurassic oceans, a vibrant world is alive with incredible biodiversity, where some fascinating creatures reign supreme. Colorful coral reefs teeming with life meet marine species of all sizes. Parapodosia sepenredensis is one of the most spectacular ammonites of this period. With its spiral shell reaching up to 4 meters, it has to make its way between corals to find its favorite food, made up of small fish, crustaceans, and other marine invertebrates, which it hunts with its skillful tentacles. This impressively large and elegantly structured species, which is constantly on the lookout for prey, uses its squid-like propulsion mechanism to get around. But, although a formidable predator, Parapazosia sepenredensis must also be vigilant. Other carnivorous predators, which some would even call aquatic dinosaurs, dominate the seabed. Metriorhynchus is one of them. This reptile, which belongs to the crocodilian group, spends most of its time hunting in the oceans. A good swimmer, and capable of reaching 3 meters or 10 feet in length for over 220 kilograms, or 500 pounds, it doesn't hesitate to attack all kinds of aquatic creatures, including giant ammonites. Competition is fierce, even in the oceans, as many other species of marine reptiles vie for different ecological niches. Fish and invertebrates are constantly on the prowl. While crocodilians hunt mainly in shallow waters, ichthyosaurs are marine reptiles described as super predators. Crocodilians and other marine reptiles, including ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs, share the top of the aquatic food chain. Although often modest in size, some species of ichthyosaur are incredibly large, such as Shonosaurus siconaensis, which can reach 35 meters or 115 feet in length. Endowed with exceptional eyesight, this swift predator, whose morphology is reminiscent of that of a dolphin, feeds on fish, ammonites, and belemnites. The plesiosaur, recognizable by its atypical morphology, also dominates the seabed. With its broad, flat body, long neck ending in a small head, and 4 limbs transformed into swimming paddles, this aquatic reptile literally seems to fly through the oceans. In fast races, it competes with the ichthyosaur, which covets the same feast as it. As the Jurassic Era drew to a close, coral reefs and vast oceans continued to flourish, harboring an incredible diversity of marine life. At the same time, terrestrial dinosaurs dominate the continents. But although these two worlds may seem totally separate, they are intrinsically linked by ecological cycles and global food chains. However, on the horizon, new forces are preparing to reshape the planet, giving rise to an unprecedented period, the Cretaceous. The Jurassic gave way to the Cretaceous, the last period of the Mesozoic era. This extends from 145 million to 66 million years ago. The Earth is undergoing major geological changes that will shape the environments in which dinosaurs will thrive as they continue to evolve. In the early Cretaceous, the fragmentation of Pangea, once the planet's only continent, intensified. South America and Africa separated, leading to the formation of the South Atlantic Ocean. At this time, Australia and Antarctica still formed a single continent, as did North America and Europe, which were connected by Greenland, but not for much longer. The North Atlantic opens up, gradually separating these continents, including Africa. India, having separated from Madagascar, began its long northward migration, destined to collide with Asia millions of years later. With the gradual separation of the continents and the emergence of vast expanses of sea, the climate underwent a notable transformation. After cooling off at the beginning of the Cretaceous, the climate gradually warmed to become temperate, warm, and humid. Towards the end of this period, average temperatures exceed 18 degrees Celsius or 64 degrees Fahrenheit, higher than the 15 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit recorded in 2023. In fact, the poles are ice-free, and sea levels rise significantly, reaching 300 meters or 1,000 feet above present levels. Last but not least, the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere is 5 times greater than it is today. Temperate forests extend as far as the Arctic regions. Abundant rainfall combined with high temperatures favors the growth of vast tropical and subtropical forests. While the scenery changes, delivering predominantly vegetation-rich environments, grassy plains and deserts also punctuate this changing landscape. This climatic evolution is ideal for a multitude of species, fostering the creation of new, but above all diverse ecological habitats. In this ever-changing world, oceans cover land like never before. Shallow epicontinental seas cover vast swaths of continents, creating nutrient-rich inland marine environments. Coral reefs thrive, providing complex habitats for a multitude of marine life forms, from ammonites to fish, not forgetting aquatic reptiles. Vast and dynamic, the oceans are home to an impressive diversity of creatures, from small vertebrates to the largest marine predators, such as Nyasasaurus and Pliosaurs, both ferocious carnivores. Cretaceous geological and climatic changes also created a mosaic of diverse habitats on land, promoting an explosion of biodiversity. Mammals, although more discreet due to their modest size, are very present and continue to diversify. With the massive diversification of angiosperms, flowering plants covered the planet to such an extent that there was talk of a veritable ecological revolution. Colonizing the planet in various forms, such as shrubs, herbaceous plants, and lianas, they offer a rich and tasty diet of foliage, flowers, seeds, fruit, and even decomposing wood. With the advent of flowering plants, nectar makes its appearance. Bees, so precious to us today, are born, along with a host of other pollinating insects. Other species already present develop innovative characteristics to adapt to this new food. Butterflies, for example, have had their mandibles replaced by proboscis, enabling them to suck up nectar. In the vast tropical and subtropical forests and verdant meadows scattered across the globe, food abounds. Insects, mammals, and other species thrive in this prosperous setting. Dinosaurs, in particular, enjoy these varied environments. This is one of the reasons why the Cretaceous is considered to be the era of maximum prosperity for dinosaurs, as they multiplied and diversified prodigiously during this period. But let's take a closer look at the new groups of dinosaurs that appeared during this period of abundance. Let's discover their unique characteristics and the specific adaptations they developed. In North America, Europe, and Asia, a new species of duck-billed dinosaurs appeared. These were the hadrosaurs. Living in large herds, these herbivores fed on low vegetation consisting of leaves, conifer needles, and ferns. Hadrosaurus, whose name means strong reptile, is probably related to its corpulence, its average height being 9 meters or 30 feet for around 3 tons, with its flattened tail accounting for almost half its total length. Its broad, crushed snout resembles the beak of a modern duck. Although toothless at the front, this mouth houses over 1,000 teeth, which are constantly renewed as they wear down. This complex dentition enables it to crush even the most fibrous plants, making them easy to digest. Although it moves around on all fours most of the time, it can also stand up on its 2 massive, powerful hind legs to start a fast run. This is a much-needed skill, giving it an extra chance of survival against its fiercest predators, including the Tyrannosaurus rex. One of the hadrosaurids has developed a strange singularity. This was Amorosaurus ryabinini, which left traces of its passage along the Russian-Chinese border. It can be distinguished from other hadrosaurids by the hollow crest on top of its skull. This new attribute is probably a means of communication. Acting as a sounding board when it utters a cry, it must be heard by other hadrosaurs over long distances, alerting them to imminent danger. Other herds cross the Great Plains of North Africa and Asia. These include groups of ceratopsians or horned faces, herbivores of various species. Ceratopsians are classified into 3 subfamilies. Some have specimens as small as 1 meter long and weighing 23 kilograms, while others can reach 9 meters or 30 feet for 5.6 tons. The first family is the Psittacosaurus. These are small bipedal dinosaurs with the front of their skulls reminiscent of a parrot's beak. With their light bones and long tails, they are closely related to gazelles, or hypsilophodont dinosaurs. The square shape of the back of their heads is due to the presence of a ridge of thick bone, which over time evolved into the bony collar, characteristic of ceratopsians. The second family is the Protoceratops, meaning the first horned head. Larger in size, these quadrupeds also lack prominent horns on the snout. Instead, there is a bony protrusion, which later evolved into a true horn. Their distinctive feature is the wide bony collar that marks their neck. This protective shield is as impressive as it is useful, anchoring their powerful jaw muscles. For the average Protoceratops, measuring 2 meters or 7 feet in length and weighing around 150 kilograms, or 330 pounds, this protection is all the more necessary as it regularly faces a formidable predator, the velociraptor. Finally, the famous Triceratops. This imposing herbivore, whose name means 3-horned head, can be recognized by the large bony collar protecting its neck and its 3 horns, 2 long ones on the forehead and a shorter one on the nose. Its head, also adorned with a beak-shaped upper lip, is perfectly suited to grazing on low-growing plants. A medium-sized specimen measures around 9 meters or 30 feet for 7 to 8 tons. Its morphology, therefore, far exceeds that of today's largest elephant. Its massive body, supported by 4 powerful legs, gives it just as much advantage as its horns in battles with predators, including the fearsome Tyrannosaurus rex. To protect themselves from their numerous predators, a group of Cretaceous dinosaurs found another way: armor. Ankylosaurids, also herbivores, are quadrupedal dinosaurs that equip themselves with real body armor. A bony carapace covers most of their body, with the exception of their belly, offering virtually unstoppable protection. Some specimens have armor reinforced by armored eyelids, others by spikes or blocks on their backs, or have a tail with a bony mass at its tip as another defensive weapon. The largest and most emblematic member of this family is Ankylosaurus, often nicknamed the rigid lizard. Impressive with its massive flattened body, it measures around 10 meters or 30 feet in length and 2 meters or 7 feet in height, weighing an estimated 4 tons. Its most distinctive feature is its body armor, composed of thick bony plates and nodules called osteoderms that cover its back and flanks. Its head is protected by a low triangular skull, wider than it is long, and a broad beak on the premaxillae, enabling it to graze on plants. But the most remarkable feature is undoubtedly its tail, which ends in an enormous bony club. Although its belly remains vulnerable, Ankylosaurus can defend itself effectively by swinging its clubbed tail to deter or even seriously injure its attackers. While Ankylosaurus defends itself in this way, another group of dinosaurs stands out for its enormous claws. This is the Herrerasaurus group. These dinosaurs, which can grow up to 9 meters or 30 feet long, 5 meters or 16 feet high, and weigh around 6 tons, sport huge claws at the tips of their long front legs. These scythe-shaped claws measure up to 70 centimeters or 28 inches. Combined with the animal's massive muscular arms of 2 meters or 7 feet and a bit in length, these weapons, driven by considerable strength, are most formidable. Because of its strange upright posture, its robust body appeared to be in a sitting position with a straight back. Although classified as a theropod, a predominantly carnivorous group, the Herrerasaurus is primarily herbivorous, demonstrating a notable evolutionary divergence. Its claws, although certainly defensive, must essentially be used to grasp and slice vegetation, and sometimes even small animals. Similarly, its toothless beak is reminiscent of that of modern birds, which may indicate convergent evolution or a common ancestor. These features make Herrerasaurs an important subject of study for understanding the diversity and adaptability of dinosaurs, and their ability to occupy diverse ecological niches during the Cretaceous. Let's turn now to the dromaeosaurids, more commonly known as raptors, to discover another fascinating aspect of dinosaur diversity. Raptors are a family of theropod dinosaurs that flourished during the Cretaceous period. Resembling birds, their bodies are often covered in feathers, suggesting a close link with modern birds. These agile, fast, and reputedly intelligent predators, probably hunting in packs, are small bipeds, distinguished by several remarkable evolutionary traits. Raptors vary in size, but some, such as Velociraptor, measure close to 2 meters or 7 feet in length. Their heads, with their relatively large skulls, feature a narrow snout with crenulated teeth, perfect for tearing apart dinosaurs or other small animals. Essential for any predator, their eyes are forward-facing, signifying a degree of binocular vision. A sharp, retractable claw on each foot is useful for immobilizing prey when hunting or fighting off all manner of assailants. Although unable to fly, raptors' wing structures suggest that their ancestors may have had this ability. But we can't describe Cretaceous dinosaurs without mentioning the Titanosaurs, the giants among the giants of the dinosaur kingdom. The Titanosaurs are a group of sauropod dinosaurs that include some of the largest creatures ever to walk the Earth. Often nicknamed the longnecks, these giants, whose average size varies at 12 meters or 40 feet long, reach heights of up to 4 meters or 13 feet, and weigh close to 13 tons. With huge bodies supported by 4 stocky muscular legs, long necks and long tails, they are even more massive than Jurassic sauropods. During the Upper Cretaceous, certain titanosaur species from South America set new records. Argentinosaurus is one of them. The Titanosaurus that treads Argentinian soil measures up to 39 meters or 130 feet in length and weighs from 55 to 90 tons. Entire herds trudge across the floodplains to the subtropical forests. There, pruning the high branches from their 15-meter or 50 feet heights, they slowly carve out the arboreal vegetation. A little further afield, in present-day Patagonia, another mastodon also grazes peacefully. This is the Patagotitan majorum, or Patagonian titan. Measuring around 37 meters or 120 feet and weighing 77 tons, it rivals the Argentinosaurus in size. These quiet behemoths, which are probably the largest dinosaurs the Earth has ever borne, each ingest nearly 130 kilograms, or 300 pounds of plant matter every day. How could such gigantic animals with heads so tiny in proportion to their bodies feed in such a way? Because, in reality, their jaws are not capable of chewing such a quantity of food. Their teeth only serve to cut the plant material, which is then swallowed directly. Once swallowed and after passing through the long neck, they arrive in the stomach, where they are crushed by smooth stones known as gastroliths. Thus adapted to their environment, these giants are able to quickly devour huge quantities of food, giving their bodies the strength they need to support their unusual bodies. Protected by their immense size, which makes them virtually invulnerable to attack, these herbivores can feast on the highest leaves in the treetops, in complete peace of mind. Nevertheless, some titanosaurs of modest size, such as Saltosaurus, display bony plates on their backs, similar to those of ankylosaurs, suggesting an evolutionary evolution towards better defense against predators. There are even some dwarf forms of titanosaur, such as Megalosaurus dacus. This one, no bigger than a horse, seems to have adapted to the limited resources of its island environment. But let's leave these monsters alone. For while titanosaurs are considered dominant for their size, another group of dinosaurs dominated the Cretaceous period for their ferocity. Our exploration now takes us to the Spinosaurs, the first semi-aquatic dinosaurs. These monstrous and fascinating creatures, which thrived near rivers and swamps, were distinguished from other carnivorous dinosaurs of their time by their exceptional modes of adaptation. With a length of almost 15 meters or 50 feet and a back top with a strange, imposing spiny veil, this scaly predator is one of the most extraordinary dinosaurs. No modern-day animal bears the slightest resemblance to it, which further complicates scientists' research. Spinosaurus aegyptiacus is one such specimen. Its size, around 18 meters or 60 feet long, and height of around 4 meters or 13 feet, including dorsal spines, makes it the largest of all theropods. Not even the terrible T-Rex, which walked the Earth 30 million years later, is as long as it is. Spinosaurus aegyptiacus, with its size and weight of up to 7 tons, is the largest land carnivore of all time. Its elongated, narrow skull with conical teeth, which resembles that of a crocodile, attests to the fact that it fed mainly on fish. Its paddle-like tail facilitates swimming, enabling it to hunt in the water. How it hunts is not clear. Some believe it is content to hunt in shallow water, stalking prey approaching its ambush site before slashing them with its large claws or sharp teeth. Its nostrils, located at the back of its snout, make it perfectly capable of lying in wait for long periods, the tip of its snout hidden beneath the surface of the water. Others believe it can dive to surprise its victims, aided at least by its tail, which is not as powerful as those of crocodilians. What's more, its elongated lower limbs, terminating in large webbed feet, are not only well suited to swimming, but just as effective at moving over the soft ground of swamps. Like all carnivores, Spinosaurus prefers to feed on fish and other accessible marine creatures, but takes advantage of its semi-aquatic status to vary its menu. With its unique morphology, this opportunistic predator dominates river and swamp ecosystems, always capable of hunting all kinds of terrestrial prey within its reach. As for its dorsal sail, which is not a priori an aid to aquatic locomotion, it probably plays a role in seduction rituals. In changing from a terrestrial lifestyle to that of a fearsome water hunter, Spinosaurus demonstrates a most unusual evolutionary change. Our fascinating journey through the ages, from the appearance of the first dinosaurs to their unchallenged domination of the Earth, comes to an end. From modest reptiles in the Triassic period, they evolved into the giants of the Jurassic and the ingenious and diverse creatures of the Cretaceous. Dinosaurs adapted to a variety of environments, from the supercontinent of Pangea to the fragmented lands of the Cretaceous, surviving and thriving thanks to remarkable anatomical and behavioral adaptations. Their story is not only that of their own evolution, but also that of the Earth itself. Dinosaurs shaped as much as they were shaped by the ecosystems in which they lived, from lush forests to arid plains, from swamps to seashores. They appropriated every ecological niche, dominated the land, and left an indelible mark on the history of life on our planet. As we look to the future, one question remains: how could these creatures who so perfectly dominated their world for millions of years disappear so suddenly? In the first part of the Triassic period, temperatures rose sharply. However, from the second period onwards, temperatures softened markedly. This decline continued during the Jurassic, but temperatures rose again somewhat during this period, mainly due to the terrestrial activities mentioned above. There are no polar caps yet to cool the Earth a little and slow down the sun's rays. Nevertheless, the climate is quite favorable to vegetation, and by extension, to the land animals that benefit from this plant cover. The Jurassic was hot and humid, unlike anything we experience on Earth today. This climate favors the expansion of flora. The plant cover is lush and well-developed, allowing wildlife to fill numerous ecological niches. Look how incredible the Jurassic forest is. The landscape before us is simply magnificent. After such a crisis, such dense, lush plant cover is reassuring. A few million years ago, the scene was very different. All was desolation. Utter chaos. This time, life seems to inhabit this forest. Let's begin our journey in the heart of this undergrowth. Afterwards, we're sure to meet some of the forest's inhabitants and discover some emblematic Jurassic species. In what landscape did our famous Jurassic dinosaurs evolve? To understand the future diversification of dinosaur species, it's important to know not only the context, but also the world in which they evolved. As we've seen, the latter benefited from a lush vegetation cover. But what does it really look like? From small bushes to large trees, vegetation offers multiple ecological niches for insects and other vertebrates. Vegetation supports herbivores, but also small carnivores that feed on insects, for example. Other predators take advantage of the abundance of small carnivorous and insectivorous prey to feed in their turn. the large carnivores themselves feed on them, and the circle is complete. In other words, a complete food chain is created thanks to all the plants you can see in front of you. In the forest, you'll find a bit of everything, from herbivores to carnivores, insectivores, and even omnivores. This dietary diversity is made possible by the wide variety of vegetation and environments found in the Jurassic. You have to go deep into the forest to understand this. Once in the undergrowth, you can see not only the richness of the plant cover, but also the different strata of the forest, from the lowest and fullest to the highest and sparsest. You can also see how varied the genera and species are. To get to the heart of Jurassic vegetation, let's start with ferns. Yes, they're still with us today, as they may have been in the past, and they're even benefiting from new evolutionary radiations. They make up a large part of the plant cover of the period. Within this large group, there are many families, genera, and species. All families, sometimes quite different from one another, find their place within a particular ecological niche. These differences in ferns also lead to diversification in the insects and small animals that depend on them. Among Jurassic ferns, we can cite several families, such as Glycania, truncata, Osmundastrum, Dipterodaceae, while other, taller ferns, such as Dixonaceae and Cyatheaceae, are also well represented. The great diversity of these ferns plays a decisive role in Jurassic forests, as we have just said, as they form the basis of certain ecological niches. But their position in the forest also explains why they so perfectly embody this role in the ecosystem. Ferns are part of what we call the lower strata of the forest. To put it another way, they form a sort of green meadow in the undergrowth. It's a green paradise for insects, but also for small animals, which find shelter and food in abundance. Although small, not always, ferns are also home to the giant sauropod family. But we'll come back to that a little later, once we've completed our overview of Jurassic plants. During this period, ferns were abundant, but there were also many other plants. After the ferns and small bushes that form the undergrowth, there's a middle stratum and a higher stratum that make up the forest proper. This Jurassic forest is luxuriant and abundant all over the globe. Today, it's hard to imagine that vegetation could be so abundant all over the Earth, as different continents and geological zones embody different types of climate and therefore vegetation. But in the Jurassic, even on the fringes of present-day Greenland, known for its ice and biting cold, vegetation was rich and well-developed, unlike today, when it is rather low and sparse. Three main groups of arborescent plants can be identified in the Jurassic. The first group comprises conifers, also known as pinophytes. This group includes the Cheirolipidaceae, a family that is now extinct. The Archosaurs and Podocarapaceae, on the other hand, are still around today. Pinophytes are large trees. They are easily distinguished from others by their cone-shaped fruit. These cones serve as the plant's reproductive organs. On this tree, some cones are male, others female. These trees are called gymnosperms. Reproduction requires a little help from Mother Nature, particularly from the wind, but also from a few insects of the Mecopteran family, which have been active since the Middle Jurassic. They also provide an ecological niche for small insectivorous animals that settle in the forest. Everything is linked in nature. The great advantage of these pinophytes is their ability to establish themselves in a wide variety of environments, even the harshest. In this way, they have managed to colonize a large part of the world's landmass, even intertropical regions or salty environments, near coasts and maritime zones, for example. But this will not be enough to compete with angiosperms, the flowering plants that will soon occupy a large part of their territory. In addition to pinophytes, the forest is also populated by ginkgophytes. These species of ginkgos are the dominant trees in the canopy. They can reach up to 40 meters or 130 feet in height. Ginkgo digitata and adiantoids can be seen in this forest. Digitata trees have fan-shaped indented leaves. These species thrive in tropical and semi-tropical climates. The absence of cones and their famous palmate leaves distinguish them from previous conifers. These species will also provide new opportunities for the young fauna that gradually settled on planet Earth during the Jurassic Period. Let's return to the lower forest stratum. In this region, it is also colonized by another type of plant, the cycads. The most dominant and emblematic group of the period is undoubtedly the so-called cycadophytes. Cycads are far from reaching the heights of the previous group. Their foliage covers the lower forest floor, rather like ferns. They are found mainly in tropical zones with their characteristic hot, humid climate. This tropical zone is a highly favorable environment not only for these plants, but also for the many insects and small animals that depend on them. Some of these species, such as Pseudoctenus and Nilsionia, look a little like palm trees, with a crown of large leaves that fall and form the trunk. Horsetails are also very common, especially in these same wetlands. These plants can serve as food for a number of herbivores, thus promoting the development of a balanced food chain and a stable ecosystem. It's true that while these lower strata benefit insectivores and small carnivores, we can see here that herbivores also find plenty to eat. Among the horsetails, there are two major species, very popular at the time: the neocalamites and the equisetails. In addition to their great diversity of plants, these forests are home to a wide variety of environments. There are jungles such as one might imagine in the Amazon, swamps and low-lying plants, large clearings where the sun floods the ground with its heat, and coastal landscapes. All these environments form diverse ecological niches, and thus benefit a wide variety of species. It's time to go and meet them. Let's stay on the edge of the forest near this swamp and begin our discovery of Jurassic fauna with a group we've been following for some time now, the amphibians. You were expecting to talk about dinosaurs, weren't you? When you think of Jurassic fauna, you immediately think of dinosaurs. They're the emblematic group of the Jurassic and probably the most important of the animal kingdom during this period. But we sometimes forget that many other species contributed to weaving a veritable ecosystem in which these dinosaurs were able to flourish. Each of these species is part of a greater whole, and each has a role to play in the survival of the others. Dinosaurs were far from the only species to occupy the Earth at this time, and the different groups we're now going to look at undoubtedly contributed to their rise. Let's get back to our famous amphibians. During the Carboniferous and Permian periods in particular, amphibians were the main terrestrial predators, so to speak. Their size was sometimes much greater than we would have expected from the amphibians we know today. By the Jurassic period, they had largely lost this prominent position. Despite their great size, the amphibian population declined considerably, to the benefit of new species. After the Triassic crisis, the arrival of the first dinosaurs and the great diversification of lizards, these animals saw their ecological niche shrink dramatically, all of which logically led to a population decline. When there's no more food and a loss of territory, the species slowly dies. Despite this, a few managed to survive the Triassic period. These even managed to settle comfortably into the Jurassic. So all is not lost for our amphibians. During the Middle and Upper Jurassic, we discover a group that continues to grow to the present day through three major families. These are the Lysamphibians. They form the only surviving group of the amphibian class. This pretty Viorella near this watering hole is a great opportunity to get to grips with the new families of Lysamphibians. It's probably one of the oldest frogs and a member of the Anarin family. Feeding on insects, this little Viorella measures just a few centimeters long. However small, it already displays the physical characteristics of frogs as we know them today, including the shape of its head, large eyes, and muscular legs. Without knowing its group or lineage, it's easy to imagine that it's a primitive frog just by observing its behavior and silhouette. The Lysamphibians include the Anarin family and frogs like the one we've just seen. Lysamphibians also include the Urodal family, i.e. salamanders, and the Gymnophian family, vermiform amphibians also known as apodes or Cecilia. It is these last two families that will interest us now. Still in the Jurassic marshes, an insectivore quite different from Viorella roams the same environment. This time it's one of the very first salamanders, according to the latest paleontological research. Carorus sharovi has all the trappings of a salamander. Its triangular head, upward pointing eyes, and distinctive legs are all distinctive. It measures around 20 centimeters or 8 inches. Its head seems flatter than today's salamanders, and the triangular shape is also more pronounced. Studies of Carorus fossils suggest that this small primitive salamander fed on snails, worms, crustaceans, and perhaps even insects. It thrives in freshwater, where it finds everything it needs to survive. In the early Jurassic, a worm-like amphibian also appeared. We rarely think of this type of morphology when we think of amphibians, but worm-like caecilians are indeed part of this large family. They like damp, dense, warm forests. And in marshes, particularly those of North America, this Eocaecilia finds plenty to do. It measures around 15 centimeters or 6 inches long. It is therefore quite discreet. Unlike the modern caecilians we meet on the continent, this one hasn't lost its legs. If you're observant, you'll see that it has 2 small legs at the front, shortly after the head, and 2 more at the back, close to the tail. Modern caecilians have poor eyesight and often live underground. It is therefore possible that our Eocaecilia micropodia, with its legs and eyes a little more developed than modern specimens, enjoys the great outdoors more than its descendants. Like the other amphibians we met, it feeds on insects of all kinds. It has to be said that over the course of time, they too have diversified considerably. The Diptera group, which includes flies and mosquitoes, has seen an explosion of new species. In this swamp, a Tarsophlebbia dragonfly can be seen here. A little further on one of the very common seed plants from the Triassic to the Cretaceous, the Bennettitails Weilandiella, we can also see a new type of dipteran, no doubt a close relative of the cousins. Another small insect, about 6 millimeters long, called Gallimosovelia grioti, can also be seen on the lake. According to the paleontologists who have worked on the subject, this is a water spider and probably the oldest fossil of an aquatic insect of the order Geromorpha ever discovered. This region is ideal for observing insects, so let's stop here for a few moments to take a closer look at a few of them. As we just mentioned, mosquitoes and flies have also undergone a major radiation and population explosion. Climate and the expansion of vegetation have greatly favored the rise of this type of insect. But that's not the only reason. The first insects appeared as early as the Paleozoic era and were mainly terrestrial at first. But the acquisition of wings, and therefore the ability to fly, greatly expanded their range of niches, and by extension, their territory. We find Hymenoptera, including bees, wasps, and ants. Lepidoptera, with 2 pairs of membranous wings, such as butterflies. Diptera, with 2 pairs of wings, such as flies, mosquitoes, and horseflies. And Neuroptera, including lacewings and anteaters. One of the most represented groups of Diptera in the Jurassic is undoubtedly the Stratileidae. This group comprises 2 genera, Stratilia and Vocilla. These flies have wings, contrary to what scientists first thought when studying fossils, particularly those preserved in amber. What led them astray were the fossil remains, without wings. The explanation actually lies in their deciduous wings. Like many modern insects, such as ants, these flies probably lost their wings after mating. Sexual dimorphism is also noticeable in these species. Males have enlarged hind legs. This can be explained by mating requirements, since during their lovemaking the male has to position himself above the female and hold on with his hind legs. Lacewings are neuropterans, characterized by 2 pairs of equal-sized membranous wings with numerous clearly visible veins, Jurassic lacewings have much to teach us. Fossils, for example, have revealed that these insects were already using camouflage as a means of survival, particularly in the larval stage. They blend into the background, make themselves forgotten, and can thus hope to slip through the net of nearby predators. Polystoicotes punctata, commonly known as the giant chrysopod, first appeared in the Jurassic period and was still around until the 1950s to 1960s. Incredible as it may seem, the giant lacewing seems to be back in the news. A specimen was found in Arkansas, USA, in 2012, but it wasn't until 2020 that entomologist Professor Michael Sfarla made the connection with Polystoicotes punctata. Insects don't just thrive in the forest. In the aquatic environment, many species are also abundant. Another giant insect. Yes, the Jurassic period also saw insects of rather exceptional size. But fortunately for us, Morrisonepa, unlike the giant lacewing, has now disappeared. Morrisonepa is one of the giant water bugs, like the genus Lothosaurus. And the latter are not renowned for their beauty or gentleness. These insects are extremely painful to bite, injecting their prey with a saliva packed with enzymes that break down proteins. No chance of escaping. Using its proboscis, the giant bug simply sucks up the delicious cocktail of the prepared mixture, a semi-digested bodily liquid from the prey. If Lothosaurus can prey on snails, crustaceans, fish, amphibians, or even snakes, it may be that our Morrisonepa has the same culinary tastes. Other forms of insects are also making their appearance. As we'll soon see, dinosaurs, particularly feathered ones, but also furry mammals, also emerged in the Jurassic. These feathers and hairs offer new opportunities for insects, which can easily attach themselves to their new hosts. Fleas, for example, which are hematophagous insects that feed on blood, made their grand entrance into the animal kingdom to the great displeasure of their hosts. Finally, it was in the Jurassic period that the very first snakes appeared. One of the world's oldest snakes, Diplodocus, can be seen here. Diplodocus, as well as Portugalophus and Parvoraptor, are primitive snakes. Of course, they have much in common with our present-day snakes, notably the particular shape of their skulls, but they also have a few differences. According to fossil studies, even if the remains are few and often incomplete, paleontologists have reason to believe that these snakes still had their legs. If we summarize the Jurassic context seen in this first part of the video, we can see that plants, insects, amphibians, snakes, and other small animals of the forest and lower vegetation provided a rich ecosystem and varied ecological niches. Each in its own way helped the expansion of the dinosaurs. It's impossible to talk about Jurassic fauna without mentioning dinosaurs, of course, so here we are at last, right in the heart of the Jurassic, facing those famous dinosaurs. They are the emblematic animals of the period. They were very diverse in the Jurassic period, but also very numerous. Remember, dinosaurs first appeared in the Triassic, but their presence was still rather timid. And then, after the crisis, some of them didn't survive. However, The Jurassic did not mark the end of this great group. Quite the contrary. Dinosaurs took over the period and reigned supreme in the four corners of the world. But not everything happened in a day. For them, it all began with the archosaurs, their common ancestor, an animal clade that includes crocodilians, birds, pterosaurs, and of course all dinosaurs. What all these seemingly different species have in common is a particular feature of their anatomy, the gizzard. This muscular part is used to crush hard food. Over the millennia, archosaurs form various lineages, including the one we're particularly interested in now, the dinosaurs. Their emergence was still rather fragile at the beginning of the Triassic Period, especially as the first specimens were already facing major difficulties that were to slow down their evolution initially, the biological crisis that marked the end of the first Mesozoic period. First of all, it took time for nature to recover from the obstacles placed in its path. The Jurassic therefore represents an initial period of calm. The lower Jurassic in particular is a transitional period when nature and the living world gradually reassert their rights. Some species die out, others survive, and that's about it. No major radiation, no demographic explosion of any species. But once the lower Jurassic is over, the middle Jurassic is marked by a great explosion of diversification and the development of numerous species. This demographic and radiative explosion continues into the upper Jurassic. And the vast majority of these species belong to the vast dinosaur family. From the Middle Jurassic onwards, the era of the dinosaurs was truly established. Adaptations, radiations, evolutions, diversifications, demographic explosions, everything came together for dinosaurs to become major players in the Jurassic period, and more broadly, in a large part of the Mesozoic. While two major groups of dinosaurs had already appeared in the Triassic, the diversity of ornithischians and saurischians exploded in the Jurassic. Among the ornithischians, mainly herbivores that moved in herds, three major groups appeared that were to expand the dinosaur family: the Theopfores, the Ornithopods, and the Marginocephali. The suborder Theopfores means shield-bearer in ancient Greek. This gives you a clue as to what makes this group so special. Although they are mostly quadrupedal herbivores, their distinctive feature is their backs, which are armored with bony plates, spikes, or spurs, depending on the species. As we saw when discussing vegetation earlier, there were several strata in the plant cover. Low-growing plants were one of the favorite foods of the dinosaur that now awaits us. It's a very popular dinosaur, recognizable by its famous bony plates alternating in two rows on its back. This is the famous Stegosaurus. His body is quite stocky, but his head is rather small compared to the rest of his body. Scientists are still debating the usefulness of Stegosaurus's bony plates. But several interesting hypotheses have been put forward. One of these is that they may have been used as a deterrent, or even a defensive device against predators. Stegosaurus, especially juveniles, were preyed upon by dinosaurs such as Allosaurus
and Ceratosaurus. Recent research also suggests that these plates were gorged with blood and therefore sported a bright red hue that could also greatly intimidate any bold predator. But it's also possible that these famous spikes are simply a courtship tool, or that they have a thermoregulatory function. If they are also vascularized, they can act a bit like a solar panel, capturing heat and transmitting it into the bloodstream to warm the animal's body. But in other circumstances, such as when the animal shakes its plates, it can actually cool its body. In other words, he's got both air conditioning and heating at his fingertips. To get around, he had a good footing on his 4 legs. It has 3 little toes on its front legs and 5 on its hind legs. There are pads under each of them. On the other hand, his posture is a little unusual. If you look at its silhouette, you'll see that its front legs are shorter than its hind legs. The tail is well above the ground, while the head is relatively low. This morphology can be explained by the type of food it consumes, since it feeds on plants low to the ground. It has a beak and small teeth that enable it to cut and chew plants. Another type of dinosaur had bone plates, but they are quite distinct from those of the Stegosaurus. Here's a Nodosaurus, a Borealopelta to be more precise. As you can see, it has a bony plate that forms a sort of band, a bone nodule, hence its name, nodule lizard. The fossils of this Nodosaurus have enabled scientists to study, among other things, the remains of its stomach. We therefore know that it was a great gourmand, particularly fond of the ferns that carpet the forest floor. It must have consumed large quantities to meet its colossal energy requirements. The animal weighed over a ton and was almost 5 meters long. To facilitate digestion of these fatty ferns, the animal also swallowed the occasional stone. As its jaw wasn't much help when it came to chewing, it had to use gastroliths to make the most of the plants it ingested. Let's take a look at one of these cousins, a dinosaur best known for its distinctive tail. You may recognize it from the Ankylosaurus. It's more massive. Some 8 meters long, 2 meters or 7 feet high, and almost 4 tons rest on those 4 impressive legs. Unlike other members of the Theopfores family, he doesn't just have a body covered in thick armor. It also has a large club at the end of its tail. The last caudal vertebrae fused together to form the club. He also has tendons that enable him to direct and manipulate this club, in particular, to give it a certain impulse to parry or deliver blows. This asset enables him to defend himself against the predators that are rampant in the region where he lives, the riverside forests. But when attacked, he also tended to flatten himself on the ground and wait for the right moment to use his club. Do you have any idea why he adopts this peculiar behavior? If you look closely at his breastplate, you'll see that it covers a good part of his body from head to tail, but not his belly. This is his Achilles heel, his weak point. It's his Achilles heel, his weak spot, and he needs to protect it first if he's to survive in battle. Another peculiarity of this dinosaur is that it also swallowed stones to facilitate digestion of the plants it ingested. This is very common in dinosaurs that don't chew well or have sufficiently developed teeth to do so. Let's take a look at another type of dinosaur, the Ornithopoda. They may not be the most familiar to the general public, but they are one of the most successful and longest-lived dinosaur lineages. Just look at the great diversity of subgroups that define this branch. Fabrosauridae, Heterodontosauridae, Hypsilophodontidae, Iguanodontidae, Hadrosauridae, and each of these subgroups has a large number of species. This time, the ornithopods, unlike the Theopfores, are herbivores for the most part, but walk more easily on 2 rather than 4 legs. Fabrosaurs are the oldest ornithopoda, but also the most primitive. They were very small compared to other groups, between 60 and 120 centimeters, or 24 inches and 47 inches. Heterodontosaurs were already a little more developed. We see the horny beak appear, but also more complex teeth. Heterodontosaurus, for example, sported 3 types of teeth: sharp teeth that formed a real jaw with fangs, and wide teeth for crushing plants. A new specimen of this group was discovered in 2012, even though it was discovered much earlier. Pegomastax africanus is an astonishing little animal, measuring 45 centimeters or 18 inches long. While its skull is reminiscent of a parrot, its body is more like that of a porcupine and its teeth more like those of a small feline carnivore. Despite its sharp fangs and canines, it's definitely a herbivore, and perhaps even frugivorous, to be quite precise. According to descriptions by Paul Sereno, an American paleontologist from the University of Chicago, the fangs helped it to pick up plants, particularly fruit, and the small teeth in front of the canines were used to cut up the plants. It's also possible that these teeth were used to defend against predators or to protect their territory, for example. The Hypsilophodontidae group is best illustrated by Hypsilophodon. They can be found in every corner of the globe. They are larger than the previous ornithopods we have encountered. Hypsilophodon can reach 2 meters or 7 feet in length and weigh around 25 kilograms or 55 pounds. Its beak, quite similar to that of a turtle, enables it to cut the vegetation on which it feeds. As for its gait, its skeleton seems to indicate that it is undoubtedly a good runner. But the latter is of particular importance here, not because of its running prowess, but because it may have given rise to the next 2 lineages, the hadrosaur and the iguanodont. This time, the latter evolved mainly on 4 legs. However, it's not impossible that they were able to run on their 2 hind legs to escape, for example. Iguanodon was the second dinosaur to be discovered in history. The name given to this group is linked to their teeth, which are quite similar to those of the iguanas we know today. They are savanna dwellers. It feeds on ferns, but also on arborescent plants such as conifers, cycas, or ginkgos, for example. He was able to get to grips with them, as he was able to chew for a long time. We mentioned this earlier in connection with vegetation, and it's important to make it clear here. As you can see from the presentation of these first dinosaur species, all the plants we have seen above provide an ecological niche for dinosaurs that are very different from one another. Ankylosaurs like low-growing plants like ferns, while others like Iguanodon are better equipped and taller, and can take advantage of arborescent plants like conifers or ginkgos. Let's close this little plant parenthesis and pick up where we left off with the study of dinosaurs, and iguanodonts in particular. With research and discoveries evolving day by day, each time revealing a new facet of our distant history, the genus Iguanodon is in the process of being redefined, if we can put it that way. Certain species of Iguanodon, for example, are sometimes given different names, such as beryllium, dolodon, Hypsilospinus, Pterillion, or Wadhurstia. Nevertheless, let's try to establish some general characteristics of the genus by studying Iguanodon bernissartensis. At 5 meters or 16 feet high and 9 meters or 30 feet long, it weighs almost 5 tons. This makes it one of the larger dinosaurs. This herbivore nevertheless had plenty of predators. To defend itself, it's possible that its thumb was a great help. At the very least, it enabled him to curb the ardor of his adversaries. In fact, his very sharp thumb turns into a dagger against carnivores when our Iguanodon feels threatened. Another specificity of the genus is its famous duck-like beak and prehensile tongue, which enable it to tear up vegetation. The subject of its limbs and gait has long been a matter of debate among scientists. Is it a quadruped, a biped, bipedal only in its prime, or when juvenile? Although a few discoveries, notably in 2000, have cleared up a few mysteries, the vagueness is still quite relative. Its long, heavy tail is the main reason for questioning its approach in the first instance. To understand ancient species, we rely on our knowledge in comparison with current species. Here, scientists see some semblance of a kangaroo. Its strong, muscular tail could provide support for the animal, which would then walk on its 2 hind legs. But in the 2000s, paleontologists brought to light an essential new feature of the Iguanodon skeleton. Its caudal vertebrae are connected and rigidified. The first thesis no longer holds. It would seem that the tail is more a kind of balance beam, or even, depending on the situation, a counterweight. Although it moved mainly on its 4 legs, it's not impossible that it also moved from time to time on its 2 hind legs, perhaps to run and escape. The strength of herbivores to defend themselves lies above all in the horde. In a group, you're stronger. They protect each other. Iguanodons were no exception to the rule. They may also have formed part of an interspecies horde, alongside ankylosaurs, for example, to increase their chances of curbing the ardor of nearby predators. Especially as these dinosaurs did not feed on the same plants, they had everything to gain and nothing to lose by joining forces to preserve their safety. Let's take a look at the last group of ornithopods, the hadrosaurs. According to certain paleontological studies, hadrosaurs are descended from iguanodonts. It's true that they share many common characteristics. For example, they share the duck beak. Hadrosaurs have a flattened skull, enlarged in the shape of a beak to enable them to reach and gather leaves from trees in tropical forests. This ability and their dentition are assets. They will thus be favored in future evolutionary radiations over other herbivores that need gastroliths, for example, to digest plants. Hadrosaurs were fairly widespread in the Jurassic, but will be even more so in the Cretaceous. They settled all over the planet, in Asia, Europe, and North America. In fact, it was in this region that a new specimen of the genus was discovered in 2021 by students at the University of Reading in Canada. Many types of dinosaur have already been found in the region, but this time, what makes this particular fossil so unique is its age, its state of preservation, and in particular, its fossilized skin. There's no doubt that these latter elements have a lot to tell us, especially since this Hadrosaurus is thought to be a juvenile. Paleontologists may also learn more about the growth and development of these dinosaurs. Let's take a look at our final group of ornithischian dinosaurs, the marginocephalans. The marginocephalans are a special clade of dinosaurs. Although they are all herbivores, they can be bipedal or quadrupedal. What they have in common is the narrow horizontal ridge of bone at the back of their skulls. This group was to develop more extensively in the following period, the Cretaceous. But some of its members can already be seen on the Jurassic Plain. One of the best-known groups of marginocephalans is the ceratopsians. They were the group's first members. They appeared at the end of the Jurassic in present-day China. Unlike their future descendants, our first ceratopsians did not yet have the famous ruff like that of the famous Triceratops. They have an armored body and a rostral bone in the jaw. This beak-like bone enables them to tear up plants with disconcerting ease. This jaw can be seen in action in Psittacosaurus, for example. Bipedal, it is the size of an antelope. Like our modern rodents, its teeth are self-sharpening. They wear down to create a sharp edge that can cut through the toughest plants. Despite its effective jaws for cutting plants, it is not yet very well equipped in terms of digestion. It must therefore use gastroliths to crush food in its digestive system. Many Psittacosaurus fossils have been found. In some cases, up to 50 gastroliths have been found. Paleontologists believe that these gastroliths may have been stored in the gizzard, the muscularized part of the stomach. Our Psittacosaurus closes the chapter on ornithischians. Now it's time to discover the member of the second dinosaur clade, the Saurischians. In the Jurassic, the Saurischians also largely continued their evolution. The branch led to birds. Within this group of dinosaurs, two main subgroups soon emerged: the theropods, mostly bipedal carnivores, and the sauropods, large quadrupedal herbivores. Let's start with the theropods, which underwent a meteoric diversification. As we saw earlier, many herbivores populated the Jurassic soil. Herbivores meant prey, and prey meant predators. While herbivores were numerous, carnivores were also widely present. One of the best-known Jurassic predators is undoubtedly the Allosaurus. Often confused with Tyrannosaurus, Allosaurus is one of the great predators of the Jurassic. It has a huge jaw, crenellated and curved teeth that enable it to tear flesh, and if it loses a few of them in an over-aggressive attack, they soon grow back. In addition to this extraordinary dentition, He also has short but robust forelegs. They are useful for grabbing prey and holding on tight. He also uses them to butcher his victims. The hind limbs are longer, but just as vigorous. They are also equipped with claws. Carnivorous and perhaps occasionally a scavenger, Allosaurus can also hunt in groups to attack large Jurassic herbivores. There's no stopping it. This bipedal dinosaur is perfectly equipped to be a top Jurassic predator, but it's not the only one to covet this position. Let's take a look at the Megalosaurus. At 7 meters or 23 feet long and 3 meters or 10 feet high, it's quite imposing. It was the very first dinosaur to be described and given a name. In fact, it means great lizard in ancient Greek. It has many of the same characteristics as the Allosaurus. These include short, clawed forelimbs, longer, sturdier hind limbs, and a crenellated, blade-like jaw. It was one of the most feared predators of the Jurassic Period. In another genre, there are also dromaeosaurs, which began to emerge very slowly in the Jurassic, but would become more widely established in the Cretaceous. This time, we're dealing with a medium-sized carnivore. Its distinctive feature is that it is covered in feathers. At least that's what the latest research has revealed about it. It shares many characteristics with primitive birds. Body shape, feathers, legs, and the famous claw on the second finger are just some of the bird-like features. This group of dinosaurs brings us to the avian dinosaurs, such as Archaeopteryx. Archaeopteryx is another type of feathered dinosaur. It has all the attributes of certain birds. However, its reptilian side cannot be ignored either, with characteristics that define it as a small bipedal dinosaur akin to a Compsognathus, for example. This strange bird is undoubtedly the one that makes the link between dinosaurs and birds. With its claws and long tail helping it to maintain balance, it can easily hunt insects and small animals. Speaking of small animals, isn't the Jurassic known as the Age of Giants? So what's really going on? If we look at the fossils of the largest known dinosaurs, a certain number can be placed in the Cretaceous period rather than the Jurassic. So why do we refer to the Jurassic as the Age of Giants? Is it a linguistic error? Misinformation? A popular misconception? No. The Jurassic can indeed be recognized as the era of the giants. The huge, long-necked sauropods were very numerous during this period, with a wide variety of species, justifying the term Era of the Giants. Let's go and meet them. Despite their immense size, we have nothing to fear. These giants are herbivores. Incidentally, to popularize the history of dinosaurs, the term herbivore has been used until now, but it's better to call them vegetarians. Grass didn't appear until the following period, the Cretaceous. With that in mind, let's take a closer look at these famous Jurassic vegetarians. The first one we're going to meet is a Diplodocus. According to scientific estimates, Diplodocus halorum measured 30 meters or 100 feet. and weighed 24 tons. Its neck is almost 6 meters or 20 feet long, enabling it to reach food inaccessible to many herbivorous dinosaurs. It can reach the tops of trees, such as conifers, but it can also extend its neck and feed on aquatic marsh plants or horsetail beds. Its extremely long tail is also very useful. Made up of 80 caudal vertebrae, it acts as a counterweight, but can also be a powerful deterrent to predators. According to a hypothesis put forward by certain paleontologists, this massive tail also plays a role in courtship. To demonstrate their power, males would slam this giant whip to the ground. They estimated that the noise generated during these parades could have reached 200 decibels, a sound more powerful than a plane taking off at less than 100 meters or 330 feet. Diplodocus shares its territory with other gigantic animals, such as Bothria spondylus, another Jurassic mastodon classified as a sauropod, measuring almost 20 meters or 66 feet long. The Brachiosaurus genus is undoubtedly one of the best known to the general public. The full name of the genus's only species is Brachiosaurus altithorax. It too is one of the largest animals ever to walk the earth. It measures around 25 meters or 82 feet in length, and no less than 12 meters or 40 feet in height. Each of the vertebrae in his neck measures 70 centimeters or 28 inches, and he has 12 of them. Despite his oversized body, he has a small head. His guilty pleasure? The famous large trees we saw in the forest in the first part of the video, but also the cycads with their tender, tasty leaves. Despite its immense size, a serious competitor will soon be arriving in the Cretaceous, the Titanosaurus. After a long stroll through these Jurassic forests, it's time to see what's going on below sea level. The ocean is teeming with extraordinary creatures. Since the Triassic, the marine world has also undergone many upheavals. At first glance, terrestrial fauna is rich and diverse. But what about underwater life? Is underwater life also flourishing? Let's find out. In the heart of the Jurassic Ocean, of course, we find many of our famous shell animals, which form one of the bases of the food chain. Some of them are very special. We first encountered them in the Triassic, and they continued their reign of the shallows during the Jurassic. These are the ammonites. They are so numerous and diverse that scientists consider them to be stratigraphic markers. In other words, depending on the fossil species found, they are able to determine the age of the soil. Ammonites are therefore abundant in the ocean, providing a veritable food source for small and medium-sized predators. But ammonites are not always easy prey. At least some species are undoubtedly difficult to attack by small predators. Indeed, paleontologists have unearthed an ammonite measuring almost 2 meters or 7 feet in diameter. While these cephalopods are literally swarming all over the world's waters, they are far from the only ones to roam these marine territories. Predators are on the prowl. In the Triassic, we were able to see some great marine reptiles, such as the Nyasasaurus. Unfortunately for them, despite their impressive power, they were unable to survive the crisis that marked the end of this period. The majority of the marine reptiles of the time, such as Hooposuchians and Thalattosaurians, suffered the same fate. Only one group managed to defy the climatic changes and geological obstacles imposed by nature during and after the Triassic crisis. It's the ichthyosaurs. Thanks to the latest discoveries by paleontologists, we now know that these marine reptiles were warm-blooded animals and that they gave birth to their young in the open sea. Skeletons of embryonic ichthyosaurs have been found inside the bodies of adult individuals, sometimes even in a position indicating that they were ready to give birth. Their size varied greatly from species to species. The smallest measured barely 1 meter or 3 feet in length, but the largest specimens could reach 20 meters or 66 feet. If they are often compared to dolphins, it's not just for their elongated snouts and sharp teeth, but for the similarities in their way of life. They are adapted to a pelagic lifestyle that can also descend to the depths. They feed on fish and ammonites. Despite their formidable rise and great adaptability, the ichthyosaurs were to face stiff competition from the massive arrival of the plesiosaurs. Plesiosaurs were another major group to emerge in the Triassic, completing the large family of Jurassic marine superpredators. They have small heads, long necks, and bodies similar to turtles. They are also characterized by a short tail and 2 pairs of large fins. Plesiosaurus is a typical species of this order. It measures up to 5 meters or 16 feet in length. Its neck alone accounts for a large part of its length. Contrary to popular belief, its neck was not very movable. It was even rather stiff and unable to bend to feed, as swans, for example, can. It occupies more or less the same ecological niche as our Ichthyosaurus. In other words, it gradually took its place. It fed on fish and small prey, such as belemnites, animals belonging to the cephalopod clade. A fetus was found in one of the fossils studied, enabling scientists to confirm that plesiosaurs were viviparous. The female gave birth to just 1 offspring at a time. Guided by her maternal instinct, she took care of him during his early years, taking the time to teach him everything he needed to know, such as how to find the most beautiful belemnite specimens. This way, he could fend for himself later on in this blue immensity. The Pliosaurus is another of the most ferocious marine reptiles found in waters all over the world. It even terrorizes other marine reptiles, such as our Ichthyosaurus. Its jaws, armed with 130 sharp teeth, are enough to make the ocean tremble with fear. Long and razor-sharp, they kill with 1 clean stroke. Its size is matched by its formidable dentition. It could reach 13 meters or 43 feet in length. Its swimming legs, 4 powerful limbs, propel it at high speed so that it can charge at its victims. The Pliosaurus is rightly nicknamed the T-Rex of the seas. Pliosaurs aren't the only ones to conquer the ocean. Crocodiles are also taking to the sea. To illustrate the crocodilian order, I suggest you discover Cricosaurus bambergensis. It lives in shallow seas, particularly near archipelagos, where it finds everything it needs to survive. Contrary to the image we have of crocodiles, whose ancestor it is, it shares some similarities with other aquatic animals, such as dolphins. In particular, it has a caudal fin and limbs that are more akin to swimming legs than to functional legs for terrestrial mobility. Rather voracious, reactive, and fast, it doesn't hesitate to pounce on squid or fish. During the Jurassic period, a new lineage of marine turtles appeared in the aquatic world. Fossil remains of sea turtles have been discovered in Bavaria, southern Germany. The Solnhofia parsonsi turtle. This isn't all that surprising when you consider that the region at the time was, unlike today, a kind of tropical archipelago. The sea was shallow and populated by sponge reefs of all kinds. While it's easy to recognize a turtle's silhouette, a few details show that they were not yet as evolved as our modern-day turtles. Their legs, for example, are not yet paddle-shaped, but rather finger-like. This means they can move more easily along the coast. Secondly, unlike our turtles, they are not equipped with the famous salt-eliminating glands. They do, however, have the same pointed snout and triangular head. Other species, notably those in the Plesiocheilus and Thalassemus genera, populate the archipelago. These turtles had to be wary of a powerful predator that roamed both fresh and salt waters. Hypodus lived in the same geographical areas as certain marine reptiles and crocodilians. While the latter was undoubtedly preyed upon by marine reptiles twice its size, this did not prevent it from finding plenty of prey to sink its teeth into. It is a durophagous predator, meaning that no hard shell or prey frightens it. It feeds not only on belemnites, but also on other small prey, thanks to its specialized teeth. Its teeth are wide and flat, designed to crush and crush. They move quickly with their well-developed pectoral fins, making them a rather active and voracious predator. To reproduce, hybodonts lay their eggs in the water. A sort of spiral egg case was attached to the marine vegetation by a small tendril. We'll now leave the aquatic world behind us on the images of this little chord of life and head for the sky. As we already saw when we looked at the Triassic period, the wide diversification of insects and their growing population in the forest heights, as well as the presence of large predators on the ground, favored the expansion of flying lizards. During the Triassic period, one of the first groups of pterosaurs, the Rhamphorhynchids, appeared. Small in size, they were still quite primitive. But the Jurassic changed all that and shook things up a bit among these sky gods. Whereas in the Triassic we could admire Eudimophodon with a wingspan of around 1 meter, by the Jurassic, species such as Rhamphorhynchus with a wingspan of 2 meters or 7 feet were appearing. But it's far from the only one to roam the skies. One of the largest Jurassic pterosaurs is Brachiosaurus with a wingspan of 3 meters or 10 feet. The Middle Jurassic also saw the emergence of a new family of pterosaurs. They are called pterodactyls. They can be distinguished from the more primitive pterosaurs by their shorter tails, absent fifth toes, and fewer teeth. They are generally smaller than our previous pterosaur specimens. Their average wingspan varies up to 1 meter or 3 feet in length, but some reached a wingspan of 3 meters or 10 feet in the Jurassic. These carnivores feed on fish, but also on small land animals on occasion. To help them in their predatory task, they are equipped with 90 small, fine, conical teeth. Large numbers of pterosaurs appeared in the Jurassic period. Although species diversified and developed even more widely in the Cretaceous, it is clear that they were beginning to make their mark on the Jurassic sky. If the pterosaur branch is diversifying to such an extent, it's because numerous niches among the sky gods are taking shape. To find their place, they had to adapt to their environment according to their needs. Pterosaurs come in all diets, insectivores of course, but also piscivores, filter feeders, and duraphages in the marine world, and carnivores, herbivores, and omnivores on the mainland. There are also changes on land, with new small mammalian animals. In addition to the ever-popular dinosaurs that marked the history of the Mesozoic, mammals also made a timid appearance, as early as the Triassic, and continued their slow evolution during the Jurassic. Indeed, amidst the thousands of dinosaurs, it's hard to find a place for mammals in the Jurassic living world. Nevertheless, mammals did not give up. Biological crisis or lack of adaptation, vacancies are forming in certain environments. One man's misfortune is another man's gain. These ecological niches were soon exploited by newcomers. During the Triassic, in the center of Pangea, the climate was rather dry, but following the breakup of Pangea, the climate became hot and humid. As a result, vegetation flourished, and as we've seen several times, lush jungles soon covered a large part of the land, benefiting a large number of animals: dinosaurs, reptiles, pterosaurs. But not only. Some species will adapt and take advantage of this particular environment to occupy a tropical and arboreal environment. These include small, arboreal animals such as the Shenshu and Jianshu genera, and mammals. Shenshu is a small animal measuring 18 centimeters or 7 inches, with a long tail of 20 centimeters or 8 inches, and a weight of around 300 grams. Its prehensile tail is one of the features that led paleontologists to classify it as an arboreal animal. The Jianshu genus comprises 2 species, the linglong and the sonjie. They differ from the Shenshao genus despite some similarities. The first incisor is distinctly smaller in Jianshu, and it also has ovoid molars. Measuring around 20 centimeters or 8 inches long, it weighs just 40 grams, according to scientific estimates. Linglong is slightly larger, weighing around 80 grams. What's most striking about these 2 very special genera is not so much their arboreal nature, even if this shows a formidable adaptation within the mammalian lineage. It's also the emergence of the characteristics of the first mammals. In addition to their dentition, notably the mandibular joint characteristic of the mammalian clade, we can also see by observing their fossils that the skeleton has 3 very specific bones in the middle ear. This means they were equipped with eardrums, which transformed air vibrations into sound. This shows that mammals are able to establish themselves over the long term by occupying specific ecological niches, diversifying, adapting, and evolving. Many other surprises await us as we discover the mammalia forms, and in particular, the mammalia, the mammals that gave rise to our contemporary fauna. But that's another story, another period, another journey. See you in the Cretaceous to find out.